This is the lockpicking lawyer, and wait, no. Hey there guys, today we're going to be looking at the security of this Ikea smart lock. This Rothalt lock is sold by Ikea for $29.99 on their US website and, quote, makes it easy to store personal items. Seeing this lock at Ikea got me curious. What kind of security does it offer? What NFC protocol is it using? And so I had to pick one up and try it out. The lock has a whopping 2.5 star rating on the Ikea website, with many of the reviews citing battery issues or card reading issues. Apparently, running on 3 AA batteries gives the lock a surprisingly short runtime, leading to a number of frustrated customers dealing with presumably now permanently locked furniture. Opening it up, the device's construction is fairly simple. The lock includes 2 master key cards that you can use to unlock the lock, some instructions, and that's about it. It features a white plastic case with 4 holes that allow you to mount it to your cabinet, and when locked, a small metal bar extends from the body of the lock to catch on the opposite side of a cabinet door, drawer, or other furniture appendage. Now, as tempting as it is to start with taking this lock apart, the last thing I want to do is break it before I've even used it once. So let's start with the master key cards. This here is a Flipper Zero. It's a little portable multi-tool for doing security testing and reverse engineering, and handily it can read NFC cards. It can tell you all sorts of information about what NFC standard they're using, what protections the card may have, and more. Tapping one of these cards against my Flipper Zero here, we can see that the key cards are recognized as a generic ISO 1443-4 tag, also known as a NFC-A. Both cards have the same UID programmed, meaning there was no significant difference between the two. Both contain the exact same data. Without further ado, let's pop some batteries into this thing. We can see it in action. This way we can also try some active NFC testing against the lock. The device uses 3 AAA batteries stored in this nice little battery compartment, and they were relatively quick to install. No real issues. The device started with a beep, and the lock was ready to go.
Okay.
Tapping one of the master keys to the back of the lock, everything worked great. No issues whatsoever, it actuated without issue almost every time. Now, I tried cloning one of the card's UIDs and emulating it with the Flipper Zero, but unfortunately this didn't work. This is basically the same as cloning the name of an NFC card without any of the stored data, and it was obvious the lock here was looking for more than just a UID to complete the authentication procedure, as it didn't even beep to say the authentication was unsuccessful. I popped the rear cover off the device, curious what was underneath, but it was just covering up the NFC antenna.
All those clips
I think they used this panel style design in order to get the NFC antenna closer to the outside of the device, rather than having to detect NFC cards through the thick shell used on the rest of the device. Now, the plan here was originally to dive further in depth using a Proxmark to read card data and figure out exactly what was stored, how the lock is authenticating, and all that fun stuff. But instead, on a whim, I decided to try another random hotel key card that I had lying around. And it worked perfectly.
No way. What?
Almost every random hotel key, train pass, and NFC card I had lying around in my collection worked perfectly. This was kind of ridiculous.
Ooh. The Hilton. Oh, never mind. Sorry. The Hilton Grand Vacations. It works in the second tab. How would a Presto train ticket? Yeah, that works.
And of course, I had to try one other NFC device while we were at it. Tom Nook. And yep, he worked perfectly as another master key to this lock. Okay, without further ado, we've got to tear into this thing and see what's inside. How could a supposed lock be this insecure? With the battery pack removed, only 4 screws held the outer case on. Once popped open, the metal latching mechanism is immediately visible. Luckily, the metal used appears to be non-magnetic, mitigating any strong magnet-based attacks. On the other side, the lock had a small motor, a set of gears for moving the latch, and a single control PCB. 2 limit switches allowed the lock to stop when reaching either maximum or minimum range, and that's about it. The NFC antenna is connected via a 4-pin right-angle header, and the board features 2 main ICs. An ST25R39118, which is described by ST as a multi-purpose NFC transceiver, and an ST-L051K86, a variant of the popular STM32 family of microcontrollers, which serves as an ultra-low power ARM Cortex A0 Plus CPU, which runs at 32 MHz and has 64K of flash memory. Now, just from a 1,000-foot view, everything on the board should enable the secure use of a variety of NFC protocols. I checked the NFC transceiver's datasheet, and it supports NFC-A, B, V, Felica, and even MiFair Classic. So that brings about the question, what went wrong? Why does any NFC card open the lock? I mean, we have a main processor here that could authenticate this NFC data, and we have an NFC transceiver that supports all these variety of standards. Was it maybe a liability concern or an unintentional programming error? Unfortunately though, this is where the research stops for this video. I was hoping to dump the firmware for this device and determine what kind of NFC authentication was in play, but it was not to be. I attempted to set up my far too large debug pin setup and connect it to the STM32's tiny little debugging interface, but I ran into some issues. Either my pins weren't making enough contact, which is very possible, or the device's SWD interface was disabled, another possibility. Now, I'm aiming to make a follow-up video to this soon. I just ordered a dev kit that uses the same STM32 so I can sanity check myself. I ordered an ST-Link debugger to properly connect to the debug interface, and some tiny enameled copper wires so I can solder to those very small debug pins, rather than relying on these massive, precariously balanced spikes. And as such, that's where we'll end for today. Thank you for watching, and I hope you appreciated this short deep dive into the world of cheap smart locks. If you have any feedback or happen to know anything more about the smart lock, send me a message. I'd love to learn more and add it to the next video. My name is Tim, and this has been Every Medium.